I have a sense that the dream was big, but I only remember it's as if like a movie was going on. I just go in and just remember one snapshot of it and then walk out. So that's the only piece I remember in the dream. So the piece is that my mother is there, my uncle, my dad's eldest brother is there. And I have this sudden deep sense that not now, that eventually one day my mother will die, eventually one day my uncle will die, and I am hugging my mom very tightly. That how is this thing that one day she will be no more. And my mom is not aware. Both my mom is working, right, and my uncle is there, but I am holding her tight, just with the feeling that one day, not now, but eventually one day, she will be no more. And that's the only thing I remember in the dream. Background is that I always have the sense that death is a real thing, and we are, just to comprehend, I'm unable, always I have the problem of really comprehending death. It's as if like we go to a movie, we see the story, we know that once the movie is over, we come out and there is a life. But this movie we are in, when we are out, there is nothing. So I'm always struck with that. Like if we really fast forward life, it's just into a day, and we are all talking this knowledge, jnana, purusha, all this is fine, but evening we are going to die, and that's it. So that's a real question mark. It's like I'm left with.
One of the definitions of dhyana is the process of dying in the here and now. Yeah? There's a sutra also that says Shanta Udita Avyapadesha Dharmanupati Dharmi. It means that everything that I experience now is dying. You remember what I said in the first day. So death is not something that's going to happen much later. It's happening now. And if we don't let it happen, we create asmita. Yeah, so my question is, what has Shrikant discovered that he has felt he hasn't embraced for a long time? That it'll go away if he doesn't really acknowledge it and embrace it.
Slightly on the lighter vein, but at the same time responding to your initial reflection, immediate Mundago Upanishad, the Kathopanishad comes in.
The Kathopanishad is about the fact that the sun keeps asking the kind of questions you were asking us. It says, why are you doing this stupid yajna? You're supposed to bring some healthy animals and sacrifice it. If at all you're bringing some puny animals and sacrificing it. The father gets so angry with him. He says, if you don't shut up, I'm going to put you in this fire. So Nachiketas says, yeah, do that. So Nachiketas is put in the fire and he goes to Yama. And he waits at the gates of Yama for some 7 days or something like that. So you have to wait there without eating, right?
3 days.
Huh?
3 days.
3 days, okay. So when Yama comes in, he says, I'm sorry I made you wait. Can you ask me for 3 boons? So he first says, let my father's anger against me be settled. Yeah, I don't remember the second one he asks. Then third thing he asks is, tell me about death. So Yama says, I'll do anything for you. I'll give you gold, I'll give you this. Don't ask me about death.
He tempts him with three things, no?
Huh?
He tempts him with wealth,
Yeah,
and wine.
Yeah, he tempts him with. Right, and he refuses all that and insists. And so there's a whole Nachiketa's, this thing, yajna around it, and it's an important thing. So.
And the interesting thing is when he tempts him with these three things, you know, he says, even before he says that you have to be of a particular temperament. If you really want to understand death or life, you need to be deserving of that knowledge, you know. So, and he tempts him. And this boy, he's a young boy, he's about 17 or something. And he's not tempted by it. And they're illusions, you know, they're Maya, which he creates. And he stands and then he says, you seem to be the sort of person who's worthy of the answers of your questions. So he goes through a rigor of you know. And then the thing that is beautiful to me about this story is that he begins his journey, he leaves home. But like all of us who set out and to explore the world, some of us come back home and some of us don't. But he comes back. And somewhere in the Kathopanishad, at least by the person who told me the story, is that when you set off and to look for answers, it's so important to come back to the place of your birth to invest those answers back. And that only completes your answers. So for him, the biggest thing is to go back and make sure his father is not angry with him anymore. And the only way he does that is by returning to him alive, but with answers about death. And then they name the fire, the holy fire, after him. You know, so I think the beauty is that he comes back. It's not as if he goes off a path, you know.
It's like really only when any learning, when you put it against death, will it become really take life for that learning. For me, like death is that realness it will bring to our learning, because in contrast to that is what we are engaging in. So somewhere that the most real thing is that we are going to die, and in comparison to that, any learning is engaged. For me, it will be a more real thing, which I was not. I don't know whether I'm articulate here. It's just that this is real. What we are learning is a real thing. It's not a conceptual, general thing. It is real in all material. And that realness, I become aware only when I keep it in contrast to the realness of my death. And that is what I was missing in my learning. It's an analytical, it's like you discuss about some things out there on the board. Who
discusses? You mean the discussions we're having here?
Means, yeah, anything, how I am engaging with the learning process initially is that there is something there, and I'm analytically seeing there and dissecting, whatever. But what that is has real implications in my process, in my being. And unless I bring my death, certainty of my death, and in that awareness I look at the things, for me, it just came as a thing that the death is a real thing which I am missing inside this learning process.
Yeah, it's a certainty. I think it's a wonderful parameter or a yardstick actually to apply to any practice or learning. How does this, what does this do with death? What is its connection with death? What does it teach? But I'm also thinking, going with what Raghu says, that about this threshold, I think for us too, this is another sort of threshold from individual to group or collective life of another kind. Death also can be seen, has been seen as that death takes us into a more collective threshold, into a more collective life. I mean, it's not the only, but that is also one of the transitions we make from a more individual into a more collective existence. We don't, some of us may know, some of us may not know, we may not know, but what that level is, that too is transition. So our individual practice here has a bearing on any possible life we have in that collective in another form.
We're going to talk about practice today, yeah? Which means how do you continue the practice? So I've tasted different things and I now need to get into and make a commitment to a practice. Yeah? And the sutra says, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara Adara Asevito Dridabhumihi. Yeah? Now, what does Abhyasa mean and what does Vairagyam mean? Okay, Abhyasa means Abhi Asat, to stay with. Yeah? So I choose a path with a heart. Yatha abhimata dhyanadva. I choose a path with a heart and stay on that path. Okay? Now, what are the Vairagyam means raga that falls away. Okay? And there are supposed to be 4 steps to it. The first step of Vairagya is called Yathamana Samya Vairagyam, which means I put an effort and I say I will not be distracted by ABC and I will stay with this. The final stage is called Vashikara Samya Vairagyam, where it's just fallen away. I don't do anything about it. It's simply, I simply am not distracted at all. Distractions don't touch me. So the power of these distracting forces to touch me is 0. Yeah? And it's interesting, number of conversations I've had this morning and some of the things are around this in some way or the other. Yeah? So one way of describing the distractions is the set that we've gone through yesterday. Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, all of this. But the most important of that is doubt. Yeah? In yoga also very often, especially in India, people come to learn because they're sick. It's a very funny thing. At one point of time when I was teaching yoga, all the students that came to me who were Indians came to me for therapy. Yeah, back pain or this or that, some therapy or the other. All the Western students who came to learn yoga and go back and teach. Okay, it's a very funny situation. So Vyadhi Sthana kind of a thing, many people come, but they take it on and stay with it only for that reason, which is the chikitsa part of the whole thing. Now when you really enter the path, the first thing that hits you is doubt. Why does doubt hit you? Because when you really start to practice yoga, you have to practice the understanding of anitya, ashuchi, dukkha, anatma. And getting in touch with anitya is very scary, which is what you're talking about. Yeah. When you really internalize that this whole thing is anitya, you have to confront death. Because that's the definition, satyam and maya and all of this. Yeah? So it always creates doubt because the theory itself inherently says there's nothing permanent. Right? So how can I give you any guarantee whatsoever that this path will lead anywhere? Therefore, there is only one step. So if I really practice this, it becomes my bhumi, my foundation. Then I take the next step, That's all I can do at this point. That's all that will be revealed to me because I'm standing at that edge. And if I practice, I will know the next step. Then I will know the next step. And at each step, I can get distracted. Right? If I don't get distracted by doubt, I get distracted by pramada. Okay, I've reached this step. So what? Let me experiment with it. Let me do this, let me do that. Or you get into this thing of saying, this is the end. I've got nirvana. I've arrived. Sort of a thing. Yeah? So these are the distractions. Okay, so the distractions are not from the outside. The outside distractions are the secondary consequence of inner distractions to start with. Yeah? And the anxieties, many of the things that came up yesterday, are all contributors to these distractions. For example, when you really take a step in this direction, you start confronting your ghosts. You start confronting the more difficult things. For example, what we did yesterday evening was comparatively simple. You took some feelings and you re-engaged with those feelings. Right? And then when you have to go to the next step, it's possible that those feelings that were so-called happy feelings actually come out because a craving has been satisfied and therefore you felt sukha. Right? So you experienced something as sukha, which is actually dukkha. And you start confronting these things when you actually start taking the path. Or you thought something was dukkha. And when you went underneath, you discover that engaging with this dukkha is healing. Yeah, that also you reported. So when you start doing all of this, then your entire worldview, which was there before that, which gave rise to the assumptions and conclusions that this is dukkha, this is sukha, this is nitya, this is anitya, gets shaken up. If it's a real step. Okay? That is what that other sutra is saying. Hetu pala ashraya alambanaihi sangrihitatvat tesham abhave tat abhavaha. So if a set of assumptions that are supporting a set of conclusions and therefore a set of experiences have all got shaken up, then a whole set of worldview, idea about the self, idea about other people, all get shaken up. Okay, when this gets shaken up, you might actually get vyadi. Right? So some people say, I felt the other person's pain, this, that. Yeah? Or you feel lax because this pain is coming, you give up. Or you have doubt, or various things that happen are all because this ground that you stood on is getting shaken up. If this ground, conversely, if this ground is not getting shaken up, you haven't taken a step. Okay? That's the bhumi. So there's one sutra that says, Tasya bhumishu vinyogaha. So this bhumi means 2-3 things, this ground that I stand on. So when I'm teaching somebody, that's the ground that they are standing on. I have to understand what is their ground and what's their next step. Yeah? Which is also one very big reason why none of the sutras should be read as anything other than principles and suggestions and not as endpoints and shoulds. They are not dogma, they are not injunctions. It says, when you walk the path of yoga, all of these things happen. You could walk it this way, you could walk it this way, you could walk it this way. But some of the things that happen have these characteristics. And this has also been scientifically now established, that whether you do Buddhist meditation, or you do this meditation, or you do that meditation, your alpha wave, beta wave, theta wave patterns change. Your serotonin levels and all of these things in your body change. So there are physical correlates that have also been discovered, which are exactly the same whichever path you take. Yeah? But none of these correlates tell you that your assumptions about the world and assumptions about the self have all got shaken up like hell in this process.